better. They deserve real pathways to recovery, real medical treatment, real support, and real hope. They deserve a state that chooses healing over harm and accountability over indifference. I believe in our people. I believe in their resilience, their strength, and their ability to rise above even the hardest circumstances. I also believe that South Carolina must be a beacon for recovery, a place where we do not abandon those who struggle, but instead light the path towards restoration. Because the people of South Carolina are worth fighting for, and their future and our future is worth protecting. Having said that, Chairman, let me discuss 4641, which is a kratom ban in our subcommittee. Let me briefly go over what we talked about. Last July, the Kratom Consumer Protection Act became law. This law prevented kratom products from being sold to anyone under the age of 21. Also included some discussion, some language about labeling requirements to inform individuals of the ingredients contained in the products they were purchasing. This bill would go further and repeal Act 35 of 2025 and institute a complete ban on kratom products by scheduling the drugs as a Scheduled I controlled substance. The penalty for distribution of the drug would be up to 5 years imprisonment and up to $1,000 fine or both. Possession of kratom would be up to 6 months imprisonment and up to $1,000 fine or both. At subcommittee hearing, we heard about 2.5 hours of testimony 2 Fridays ago, I think that'd be correct, right before we took break, or 2 Thursdays ago, right before we left for our furlough, and also the week before that. And I would be honestly to be say that the testimony was probably 70-30, more in support of natural kratom products instead of these synthetic kratom products. An amendment was brought up by Ms. Rosalind Henderson Myers that I think that we are going to revisit, but for purposes of the subcommittee report, Mr. Chairman, that is what it entails.
Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Britton. So, as I understand, there was no amendment, so no subcommittee report at subcommittee where we have the bill before us, and now you're handing out an amendment. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Thank you. No.
It's hard to take that out sometimes. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
So, but seeing how I have many individuals testify. I've had many individuals reach out to me, email me, leave voicemails, most in support of making sure that natural kratom is available but regulated. And so my amendment would allow for natural occurring kratom to be sold, but it would disallow or make it unlawful for a kratom possessor or retailer to distribute, dispense, or sell any kratom product to any individual under the age of 21. Prepare, manufacture, distribute, dispense, or sell any kratom product that is adulterated with a dangerous non-kratom substance that affects the quality or the strength of the product to such a degree that it may injure the consumer, contains a poisonous or otherwise harmful non-kratom ingredient, including but not limited to any substance listed in section 4453-190, 4453-210, 4453-230, 4453-250, or 4453-270. It also would make it unlawful to contain or have it containing any synthetic alkaloid, including but not limited to synthetic midodrine and the synthetic 7-hydroxy mitogen. It's a very fun word to say many times. Or any of the other following synthetic derived compounds of the plant Mitragenia speciosa. Man, I should have paid more attention in science class. Contains levels of, or anything that contains levels of residual solvents higher than the standards set forth in Chapter 467 of the U.S. Pharmacopoeia National Formulas, or does not meet the labeling requirements pursuant to the Section 4453-2030 and regulation promulgated to implement those provisions of that section. And so I will, I'm sure there are some questions. I'll be happy to answer as many questions as I can. But, Mr. Chairman, in short, what this would do would allow natural kratom and it's the leaf to be sold, and any synthetic derivative of sorts or any filler would be illegal and unlawful to obtain. And then I would assume that we would go back to the penalty for distribution for 5 years, up to $1,000 fine, or 6 months, and up to a $1,000 fine as well.
Thank you, Mr. Britton. Questions, comments as it relates to Mr. Britton's amendment? Mr. Guest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Britton, do we have any federal laws that deal with kratom at this time?
As to date, we do not have any federal regulation on the drug kratom. The FDA did set up a process to look into making whether kratom had any medicinal value. That process was put to a halt to revisit when they have more information and more scientific data. Seeing this is a new product, and I know that it's not a new product as a species. It's been around for hundreds and thousands of years and used in Indonesia and Thailand. But here in the United States, we haven't found any real medicinal value to it. It acts like, to get into the science of it a little more, kratom mimics some of heroin's and opioids properties. So when you have an agonist, and kratom is not a fully agonist, it is a biagonist, which means that it doesn't completely bind to the receptor. So that doesn't make it as addictive and natural occurring. The problem occurs when with this 7-OH is that it's supercharged, basically. And so when it attaches and it leaves a longer lasting effect, which over time, that dependency deepens. And when dependency on a chemical substance deepens, your brain, your body stops making that substance as much because you have a certain homeostasis. It's getting it naturally or from your brain. Once you start supplying it with an overpowered natural substance, it says, oh, I'm getting this on the daily basis. I don't need to make it as much. That process continues. You start with 1 milligram, 2 milligrams, 3 milligrams. You get to a point to where the withdrawal symptom of that gets so bad that you cannot, it mimics that of heroin, that of methadone. So the reason that the FDA hasn't been able to really, I guess, put its foot down on whether the FDA should approve it or not is because there really just isn't enough scientific data based on kratom use in the United States. I heard statistics from one doctor in Anderson that'll tell you that it's just touching it's a death pill. And then I hear another doctor down in Beaufort saying that, look, it's good, it's okay, and it's natural substance. So with so many different opinions and so many different statistics out there, somewhere in there the truth lies in the middle. But I do believe that in South Carolina, we need to make sure that if we're not going to ban kratom completely across the board, we definitely take care of the synthetic stuff that is made to be more powerful than the natural occurring stuff. And if the federal government doesn't want to step in, then South Carolina will do it first.
Okay, and then I just want to understand, under the bill that was presented, it makes kratom a Schedule I drug. Is that right?
Sorry, Mr. Guest.
All parts of kratom are...
If the amendment is passed, natural kratom and its leaf will not be illegal. Only the synthetics of kratom.
My understanding is it's not making it illegal, it's just making it a Schedule I drug, which means it's got to be prescribed.
No,
or is it illegal?
Schedule I would make it illegal. It'd be like
Okay.
heroin.
So this is changing that to making anything natural legal and continue to be sold as it is now in all the shops all over the Myrtle Beach where we're from.
As we speak right now, it's legal to the age of 21. You have to be the age of 21. With this amendment, it would get rid of the synthetic component of what has been basically, in lesser terms, killing the people and causing problems in the severe withdrawal symptoms of the kratom product. In its natural state, it seems, as of right now, to not cause any real problems. I do understand, and trust me, I do understand, that even in natural kratom, there are trace amounts of 7-OH, but they're so minimal that it would take an immense amount for you to be even close to coming to overdosing on natural kratom. But the problem that we're seeing, and the reason this has been brought to our attention, is because, again, people are making it in their garage with synthetics. They're getting products that are more powerful than morphine, more powerful than fentanyl. So we're having some problems making sure that the synthetic part of it is definitely tapped down. But we want to make sure that we don't completely take away a substance that might have some medicinal value. So in seeing from the test and hearing the testimony in both subcommittee meetings and the amount of emails, voicemails, it seems that there might be a way for us to make sure that we regulate natural kratom, which I believe will come a little bit later, and for us to go ahead and make the synthetic or any synthetic addition to natural occurring kratom illegal.
So right now, do we have anybody that regulates kratom at all? Any agency?
I mean, to the point that SLED regulates it to the extent that it can. Now, one of the problems that SLED has, and I understand this problem, is that they have a very tough time being able to differentiate between natural kratom and the synthetic stuff, especially like a roadside stop, which is why originally I had pause on an amendment like this, because we want to make sure our law officers, get the law right, and they're making sure they're stopping the people they're supposed to be stopping. And it still bothers me a little bit, but I think that as this kind of organically grows into what I think will hopefully be a very fantastic bill, we need to make sure that we have spots in place for our law enforcement to be able to enforce non-synthetic or non-natural occurring kratom.
Well, if we don't have anybody that's regulating it, that's coming into the stores, how do we know what's going to go into the stores is properly has a proper ingredients or whatever on the side? They're not putting in the synthetic stuff. They're just not saying it on the packaging. If we don't have anybody that's regulating it.
Well, there's not much I can do if people are going to lie about the packaging, and then it would just have to be, unfortunately, I guess, luck of the draw. If somebody were to die from that product and be looked into, then that person would face the circumstances and consequences of their actions. But doing nothing is just not the answer here. We've had a death in Horry County from the use of synthetic kratom. There have been some deaths in the upstate from use of kratom as well. The amount of hospital intake and withdrawal symptoms, and not overdoses, but problems that kratom has at least begun to establish, has increased 150% over the past year and 400% over the past 5.
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree that there are some positive things that go with kratom, and if we can ensure that what we're putting out there as a product is what is the natural occurring kratom and not the synthetic, then I think that's it sounds like that probably is something that helps people. But the problem I have is if we have no way to regulate this, it's kind of tough for me to tell a constituent whose child dies from it that they got synthetic kratom that didn't say it on the side of the package.
And Mr. Guest, trust me, you're both from the same area. I completely agree with you. And that is a hard conversation and a very, very tough conversation to have. And I take your words to heart as well. I do understand that it will pose a difficult situation for our law officers. It will pose a difficult situation for our small business owners. But we cannot let the good business owners and the right that are doing this and selling kratom in its natural state be overtaken by the bad actors. And if you're a lawyer like me, let 1,000 guilty people go away before you let one innocent man go to jail. So in that kind of, I guess, same kind of talk, what we want to do here is make sure that we're keeping the people that are trying to do right by a natural occurring substance that has properties to help them wean themselves off of opioid addiction, and then regulating and trying to make sure that we make it illegal and a crime to possess any kratom product that has any synthetic in it. Outside of that, I can't give you any technical and very specific regulation and or, I guess, examples that where SLED would be able to, or whatever agency be able to go in and look at the products to make sure they're all natural.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Britton. Mr. Bailey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be, as they say, brief. I just want to make this comment because I've heard this argument before. We just recently had to deal with it with hemp. It was an innocent product. It was all natural, and we were going to use the ingredients to make material. Now we're making an exception for another natural product that has the unintended consequences to be able to make additional products down the road. Who knows what that'll be as science evolves. I'm not going to support this amendment because I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think once you open the doorway, you're going to see those other products come, and we're going to be trapped in the same discussion as we're seeing right now with the hemp products. But thank you for your effort.
I appreciate your comments, Representative Bailey, and to a certain degree, I completely agree with you. I do think that we are at probably a tipping point with this product now. I would hate to give our small business owners and other business owners a false sense of impression that this is always something that's going to be legal. But we need to make sure that we don't let them just completely run out the door with it, start all these multi-million-dollar businesses or whatever, and then come in and take the rug out from beneath their feet. At least by doing this, making sure that we regulate and make illegal the synthetics and allow the natural, hopefully that will lead to a better resolution for our store owners to make sure they put natural products there. But I'll tell you this, and I was talking with some of our other, I hope to have at some point at the floor a very punishing statute or amendment for anyone that does still continue to sell synthetics.
Thank you for that. And I am sympathetic to those folks that are out there that have business license, but at the same time, some of these products, they should have been aware, and they are doing that. They knew that one day that could be an illegal substance, and they shouldn't get a pass just because they've been doing business in that category. But thank you.
Completely agree. I saw one example where 3,600 pills were being sold for $36. I can guarantee you that's probably not all natural ingredients.
Thank you. Ms. Henderson Myers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wanted to ask you, Representative Britton, are you familiar with the position that the federal government has on synthetic versus natural kratom? For instance, the Health and Human Services has recommended scheduling applies to the synthetics and not the leaf itself. The Drug and Enforcement Administration is reviewing some synthetic compounds, and kratom is not a target with that. Natural kratom. And then the Food and Drug Administration has stated that synthetic is dangerous, addictive, and illegal, but enforcement should focus on the synthetic and not the natural kratom. Are you familiar with the federal government being in that space?
Yes, ma'am. And I'm just wondering, you do realize that we are trying to do that right now, make sure that we make the synthetic part illegal.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
my
ma'am.
point, that, with the federal government, that they're already in this space and are providing some guidance and regulations for us to follow. And in addition to that, are you aware that Florida, Kentucky, and Ohio, two of the southern states, Florida and Kentucky, already are regulating the issue with the synthetic kratom, and there are laws against that?
Yes, ma'am. I'm very aware. It does seem that across the nation that the target of this product seems to be the synthetics. Thank you very much for your comments.
Mr. Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure I understand that we received an email that talked about the Kratom Consumer Protection Act, and the KCPA already establishes age restrictions, labeling requirements, and safety standards as well. So my concern is I'm in a unique position. I've had two people approach me, two family members, where their significant other or their spouse or family member had passed away from an overdose on kratom. So I've reviewed, kind of everything that talks about how they overdosed. I've reviewed the medical records and lack thereof from some of these medical providers. I've reviewed the bags. In one store, for example, lady came, we had to actually find the bag in her closet that she was using to overdose off of. And it was just simply a marker that was handwritten. There was no labeling. There was nothing, no requirements on there. It didn't say take X amount per milligrams or anything. It was just literally handwritten in a black Sharpie marker. Is there currently anything, maybe I missed it, is there currently anything that regulates that specifically? I've only been here 2 terms, so I want to make sure. Is that what was passed in the prior session?
So just like mentioned before, in 2025 with the KCPA, there are age limits on there and there are labeling requirements on there.
Okay, so
So
that's,
what she found would have been, or what she bought would have been illegal under the Kratom Consumer Protection
so
Act.
that's fully addressed. This is just basically whether regulating or full out ban based on this amendment. Is that correct?
No, based on this amendment, Mr. Martin, this would separate natural leaf of kratom
synthetic.
from the synthetic.
Okay. The majority of the emails that I've received as well, and again, I'm a co-sponsor on this bill, but the majority of emails that I've received, I mean, I'd say 80% of them ask for us to focus on getting rid of the synthetics and making sure we keep the natural products. And obviously, I don't want to take away anybody's, any medicinal benefits that they've found from these products, but also don't want to make sure that this doesn't fall in the wrong hands. In one of the cases that we investigated, for example, foreign countries were sending in fake bills of lading from these products just to be able to get some of this in the United States. So as long as the labeling and all that has been addressed in prior legislation before I got here, I'm a little bit more comfortable with the amendment. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Martin.
Ms. Landing?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having served like some of our other folks that have spoken on the subcommittee, and we did hear quite a bit of testimony, this is a really, really tough subject. And probably the biggest reason why is that it is true that we probably heard at least 70% of the folks talking about their own anecdotal experiences. And in many, many cases, it was heart-wrenching what they had gone through to try to find something that would help alleviate pain that most of us can't even imagine. Different diseases that are very rare, different things that, and they didn't want to be on morphine for life. They didn't want to be on opioids for life. They didn't want that. And then somehow natural leaf kratom really helped them and was not causing them. And these folks were standing at the podium talking to us and seemed very, very rational and normal and healthy. And it's because they claim this is how they came to be that way. But we did also hear from 2 toxicologists, board certified, who said that, you know, that when it breaks down in the system, yes, there's no question the synthetic is way more powerful, way more potent, way more addictive, and that coming off of it is the same or worse than coming off of heroin or any number of other really tough drugs. So I guess part of my question is with this, I do see that it's possible that the natural leaf actually does have medicinal purposes. We don't know that for a fact. I think that's why the FDA has held off on judging on the natural side yet. But what I was wondering is if we do this amendment, does it still keep the synthetics as a Schedule 1? And then the natural would be considered not part of that, would only be regulated for age and labeling?
Ms. Lanning, that's a great question. As of right now, no, that would not move the synthetics to Schedule 1, but 7-OH is being considered and is getting ready to be, I believe, be as a controlled substance and scheduled by the federal government. I am hoping at some point to make maybe introduce an amendment that would address your concern. I just haven't gotten that far in the back of my mind just yet. Ms. Lanning, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, before us we have the Britton Amendment 1. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Britton, anything else? This was a strike and insert amendment, I think, right?
For the lack of better terms, Chairman, yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions or comments regarding the bill as it's now been amended? Hearing none, Roll call is required and ordered. Staff, please call the roll. Last names first.
Newton,
Aye.
Bailey. I'm sorry. Okay. Bamberg, Bernstein, Britton, Calhoun, Govan, Guest, Hart, Henderson Myers, Johnson, Jordan, King, Landing, Luck, Martin, McCabe, McCravey, Mitchell, Moore, Robbins,
Aye.
Rose, Spanwilder, Wetmore, Wickensheimer,
It is, yeah. By a vote of 20 in favor, 1 not voting, and, 20 in favor, 1 opposed, and 4 not voting, H4641 receives a favorable report as amended. Mr. Britton, is that all from your committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Bernstein, you're up next.
Trying to get my stuff in order. I apologize. All right. So next on the agenda, which is the first bill under Domestic Relations, Business, and Probate Laws Subcommittee, is House Bill 3408. This bill concerns